When you came to Michigan, I know you said you didn't sponsor Proposal 2, but Proposal 2 would not have succeeded getting on the ballot without your taking charge of the process. Is that true?
Thank you very much.
And you knew that in California, overwhelmingly, white people had voted for Proposal 209, and overwhelmingly, black people and other minorities had voted against it. Isn't that correct?
Sure, I knew that.
And you knew that that had been the case in the state of Washington as well. Is that not correct?
I knew the demographics.
And you knew that in Michigan, because it was 83% white, that if there was the same outcome and there was an overwhelming vote by white people for it and an overwhelming vote of black people against it, the proposal would still pass.
It would be reasonable to conclude that.
And you went into Michigan knowing, therefore, that you were putting white people in the position of banning the only programs that the University of Michigan had said, the one program the University of Michigan said it needed to maintain an integrated and diverse student body. Isn't that correct?
I have this abiding faith that black people can also be convinced that treating anyone differently because of race and skin color is wrong.
It's a little
I had that faith then, I have it now.
It's a little bit of a different question, what I'm asking. I'm not asking about what you thought about black people.
It's a loaded question that you're framing on your terms.
Okay.
And I want you to understand my answer.
I understand your answer, so let me go back to my question. You knew when you went into Michigan that you were putting white people in the position of being able to eliminate what the University of Michigan had argued in the Grutter case at the U.S. Supreme Court it had to have to maintain an integrated and diverse student body.
I knew that the people of Michigan, who include Arabs, who include, quote, whites, many of whom are Arab, who included blacks, Latinos, that the people of Michigan would vote. Not that I would be putting whites in the position, as you characterize it, of eliminating this one precious program.
But white people were 83% of the electorate.
But I don't see it. Maybe you do. But I don't see them as white people who are going to the polls to vote. They're people of Michigan who are going to the polls to vote. BAMN and others, I would add, did more to call attention to race and the race of voters than we ever did.
You knew that there was a report by the Michigan Civil Rights Commission finding racially targeted voter fraud. Isn't that true?
I'm aware of that, but I knew also that it was wrong, that we had not been involved in any kind of targeted voter fraud.
And you knew that there was a decision by a federal court judge, Judge Tarnow, that found that Jennifer Gratz and others involved in the campaign clearly either knew or were disingenuous in their presentation of the ways in which black signature gatherers were lying to people to get signatures?
I did not believe then, and I do not believe now, that there was any voter fraud in the Michigan campaign. There was a disagreement about the use of the term affirmative action.
Mr. Connerly, you yourself said affirmative action is race preferences in at least one, if not more, interviews. Isn't that true?
I said in several interviews that affirmative action has become coterminous with race preferences the way it's being used.
And so when people are saying the term affirmative action, they mean what you would call race preferences. Isn't that true?
I can't say what all people mean.
But that's what you meant. Isn't that true?
When I used the term, and if you'll look, I went to great pains to say this campaign will not end all affirmative action. I said that ad nauseum. But
you knew that the average voter would think exactly what you thought, that the term affirmative action and the term race preference are one. Isn't that true?
That is precisely why I went to such great efforts to say that this will not end all affirmative action.
And so you knew when those petition gatherers were going around and saying, these programs are for affirmative action, they were lying, weren't they?
I had not one idea of what the signature gatherers were saying to people. Not a clue. I wasn't involved in that phase of the effort.
Eliminating affirmative action programs that took race into account as a factor in the admissions process, which was the University of Michigan system. You knew that eliminating that, which is what this law was conceived of to do, was going to lower, not increase, the number of black students that were admitted at the University of Michigan. Isn't that true?
I also thought, however, that in the fullness of time, it would help
How
to
long?
change.
How long did you
I don't know. I don't know, maybe 10 years?
But in California, you had 10 years, and there was no improvement.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Mr. Connerly, in terms of UCLA and UC Berkeley, from 1995 to 2005, when you left those regions, that was 10 years, and there was no improvement, next to no improvement. Isn't that true?
That is true with regard to those two campuses, but those aren't the only two campuses in the 9-campus UC system.